Hi there, welcome to Kneppy Invest. It is Sunday, the 15th of September 2024, which means it is time to do another technical update video. I'll have a look at some indices and pretty good week, I think, particularly if you're long. If you're short, maybe not so much a good week. We'll also have a look at some commodities, a pretty good week if you're in gold, silver, Palladium as well. Had a pretty good week, if I remember correctly. And then we'll have a look at the bonds, Bitcoin, Ethereum, no idea what they've done during the week, maybe even currency, because I'm paying a little bit more closer attention to currency since I am going to United States either next May or next September for 2 months. A hiking trip. I will be hiking up some mountains, and I had to decide whether I want to go in May to deal with snow. And when I say snow, I mean snow on the ground, which will be melting, or September. September's really good, but once you go into October, even November, you have to deal with the possibility of snowstorms, even blizzard. So anyway, that's something I have to decide upon within the next, say, 4 or so months. And then we'll have a look at some individual companies' charts. I have decided on about 10 companies who did pop up on my screeners, and I might even go through some companies that are at 3-month highs. And the reason I might go through that is because there is definite theme, two themes within those group of companies, about 270 companies on the ASX that are at 3-month highs right now. Okay, so let's get stuck into it. And we'll start off with looking at the Australian indices, XJO and XSO. Some people might say, why do you look at the XJO, not the odds? Well, they're almost identical. So if you look at one, you've looked at the other. XJO and the XSO are not similar. They can be quite different. Now, the first thing I look at when I view the XJO daily chart is where the XJO is right now. 8,099.9. I just can't believe it finished at that, because 8,100 is a resistance level for the XJO. The reason it's a resistance level is because back in just before that massive two-day drop, start of August, the XJO actually got up to 8,120 and then fell back. And then it got back up to that level, we'll say 8,100, back up to 8,100 a few weeks ago. And then we had that one big down day. And now on Friday session, the XJO got above 8,100, and we did see some bit of selling pressure. That's why on that one-day candlestick, you see a bit of a shadow above the main body. So it just seems like at this level, there is a bit of selling pressure, a bit of resistance. So I'd love to see the XJO get above 8,160 to get to new all-time highs. Now, the other thing you have to note is when you do look at the weekly chart, you can see these are two sloping orange lines. The XJO has been trading in a channel for 15 years, and I've gone on about this a few times, and maybe even more than a few times in previous technical update videos. So I'm paying close attention where the XJO is in relation to this trading channel, and it is near the top. Now, it doesn't mean it can't move at the same rate upwards as the top trading channel line, but there's just more probability that we're going to see a little bit of weakness in the XJO moving forward. So I'm just saying higher possibility, higher probability. It's all about probability. It's not about certainty. A lot of grayness. There's neither black nor white. That's something I think a lot of people have to understand. There's no certainty which way the XJO is, even though it's near the top of the trading channel. Maybe it'll go above the trading channel. Who knows? Maybe this trading channel, this is it. Maybe once it goes above it, that's it. That's the end of this trading channel, because eventually it will be broken, either to the upside or downside. Anyway, so that's where we are right now. And because it is near the top of the trading channel, and we have seen a little bit of weakness, not weakness, but a little bit of resistance, 8,100, I'm not overly bullish right now when it comes to the Australian indices. And when you do look at a few of the big companies on the ASX, we're talking about the banks, Coles, Woolworths, maybe a few other companies, they are all overvalued in my opinion. So it would be healthy for us to see a little bit of weakness in the Australian markets. Now, when you have and I'm mostly talking about the bigger companies. So the XJO is the ASX 200. Once we delve a little bit down into the size of companies, once we have a look at the XSO, which is the small caps, we don't see as much, it's not as bullish. There is way more attention to the big companies on the ASX. So the XSO has a lot more room to run up from here. And in fact, I'd be way more bullish on the small companies than on the larger companies. And a lot of volatility in the small caps. And we have seen this week after week after week. So this week, the XSO was up 3.14%. By the way, the XJO in the past week was up 1.1% after being down 1% last week. XSO this week had a really good week, up 3.14%. But last week, it was down 3.2%. So you can see all these indices seem to increase by the same amount as they decreased last week. That was true for the XJO and the XSO. And you can just look at the past 3 or 4 months. Up one week, down the next week. Up, down, up, down. So a lot of volatility in the XSO. There's no trend, in my opinion, with this particular index right now. Good week. Maybe next week's going to be another bad week. Just don't know. So no trend in the XSO right now. Okay, so that's the Australian indices. Now let's move our attention to the Nasdaq. I'm going to start at the daily chart because we have this little pattern. And so not sure what this pattern is. It's not, we can say there's a bit of a downtrend developing, but even an uptrend because we've had one lower high, but I've also had a higher low. And that's why I've got these, or put these two sloping lines, one going down and one going up. So a little bit of volatility here, but probably the best way to say it, decreasing volatility. So if you go from the top here to the bottom, the next top is lower than the previous top, but then the bottom is higher than the previous bottom. So there's less distance between the bottoms and the highs, if that makes sense. And right now, the Nasdaq is at that sloping downward line. So it's hit the downtrend line. So who knows which way the Nasdaq is going to move? I would assume we're going to see a little bit of weakness in the Nasdaq because the Nasdaq saw 5 up days during the week. Yeah, Nasdaq had a really good week. It was up 5.93% after being down 5.9% last week. So this continues the theme that the indices this week rose by the amount they fell last week, or almost the amount, not exactly. So what does that mean? Maybe nothing. Who knows? It's just curious that those 3 indices we've looked at, they've all risen by the amount they fell last week. I just find that interesting in a trade. If I had to guess, and this is just an educated guess, it doesn't mean it's going to happen. If I had a guess, I would think the Nasdaq is going to have a down week, and I wouldn't be surprised to see it move towards 18,600, 18,700, that sort of level. But who knows? And if we do have a good week, that would mean this downtrend line is no longer there. It's no longer valid. It's been broken. And what that means also, if we have a good week, the previous high we saw back on the 22nd of August, if that is broken, that also means the Nasdaq is trying to move into another uptrend. So interesting times when it comes to the Nasdaq. I'm neither bullish nor bearish when it comes to this particular index because I just don't know. Dow Jones probably looks a little bit better overall because it is near all-time highs. In fact, all-time highs will be 41,600 and it's just below that. Not as good of a week for the Dow Jones as the Nasdaq, but again, last week the Dow Jones fell 2.93%. This week it rose 2.6%, so almost identical to the other indices. The amount of rise in Dow Jones last week almost equated to the fall or the drop we saw this index have last week. So the theme continues for the Dow Jones. And when you do look at the weekly chart, it looks pretty good. In fact, this is my favorite looking index right now. Not my favorite index to invest in, but my favorite looking chart for indices. Now let's move on to the Russell 2000, which is a small cap index, and a lot of volatility in this index as well, just like the XSO. Last week, the Russell 2000 down 5.7%. Now a theme is starting to drop away here because instead of rallying about 5.5%, the Russell 2000 only rose 4.4%. So not quite rising to the same extent as those other indices. And when you do look at the daily chart or the weekly chart for the Russell 2000, it is in an uptrend. I'll give it that. So it does actually look better than the XSO, but a lot of volatility. And that sort of makes sense because we just don't know what's going to happen. So we get weak economic data, positive economic data sometimes. Looks like maybe the Fed will lower interest rates by 50 basis points, maybe 25 basis points. We just don't know. And I think the market is just, who knows? That's what the market is saying right now. We just don't know. We're going to have a good week, bad week, good week, bad week. We just don't know. So it does look Interesting that the trend is slightly positive for the Russell 2000, and in that respect, probably a little bit better than the XSO, but not as good as the Dow Jones and not as good as the Nasdaq. So again, still a lot of weakness in the small cap companies, not only in Australia, but also overseas. Now let's move our attention to international indices, starting with the Nikkei, and talk about volatility. Nikkei has been all over the place over the past few months, and it continues. Now, this is where our theme, where the indice has risen by the same amount as it dropped last week, comes to a complete end. Nikkei fell last week by 5.84%. This week, it only rose 0.5%. So, continued volatile for the Nikkei 225, whatever it's called. And, my weekly report has just come in. Let's have a look at the Hang Seng. This one is in a downtrend. Weekly downtrend, that continues. Slight up week, actually down week for the Hang Seng. The 1 week candlestick is a doji, but down 0.43%. I would assume the DAX had a pretty good week. Yeah, not as good as the down week last week. So last week down 3.2%, this week up 2.2%, but the chart still looks pretty good. Almost as good as the Dow Jones, but not quite. And I would assume that the FTSE is one of the most, I wouldn't say the most boring chart, but it doesn't move all that much. But still, when you look at the last 3 years, it's in a very slowly rising uptrend. Okay, so that's the indices for now. And overall, a pretty good week, particularly for those indices who had a bad week last week. Well, not true. You can see FTSE had a negative week last week, down 2.33%, only rose 1.12%. So overall, pretty good week apart from the Hang Seng. Okay, so let's move on to gold. And for gold bugs, they had one of the best weeks they've ever experienced. Maybe I'm being a little bit overly dramatic saying that, but gold had a really good week. In fact, gold rallied by 3.22%, and most of that was in the last 2 days of the week. And the weekly chart for gold looks absolutely spectacular. It's doing everything I want to see. A really good week a few months ago, or 1 month ago, 12th of August, up 3.13%. And then the next 3 weeks went sideways. Beautiful, beautiful. Exactly what you want to see. Nice little, sort of like the gold's taking a breath before the next uptake in the price of gold. And if you have a look at the daily chart, you can see one really good day, and that was on the Thursday, and the good times continued into Friday. In fact, Friday session up 0.74%. So daily chart, weekly chart for gold, both look absolutely stunning at this point in time. And the excitement in gold finally transferred, if that's a word, that is a word, finally translated to silver. Silver had 2 really good days on Thursday and Friday, up, that's Wednesday, up 4.1% on Thursday and a further 3.2% on Friday. That looks absolutely brilliant. Not quite as good a chart as gold, but a really nice rebound in silver over the last few days. And the weekly chart for silver probably looks pretty good. Up 10.3% for the week. So a little bit of strength in silver over the last few days of the trading week. Okay, so now I was going to say, now we've got through the good looking charts, the good commodities, but I do have one more to go, and that is Palladium. So let's have a look at Palladium. I was going to leave this to the end, but Palladium is looking pretty good. So this is the daily chart. So this is just, as soon as I saw this, I went, ooh, 5 really good days in a row. Not only that, it's getting to a really interesting level. So the daily chart looks good. Now, keep in mind, we saw a really good run up in Palladium back in December last year, but it was in a downtrend at that point. I would actually look at Palladium right now saying it's more in a consolidation period, and this is looking way more exciting than this little run we saw in Palladium back in December. That was just a little bit of a bounce in a downtrend. I'm saying there is potential of a shift in sentiment and a shift in trend in Palladium just by looking at the last 5 trading days. If you look at the weekly chart for Palladium, you probably don't get that feel just yet, but you can definitely see it consolidating over the past, February to, so over the past 7 months, it's been consolidating. Now, another thing I'd like to put in here for Palladium is, I'm going to put a line, because definitely sort of this area here is, or this line, this price is very important. That was the highs Palladium saw back in March and April. It tried to get to that level back in May and July, but failed to get near that level. But in the last day of trading, Palladium got to those levels. So Palladium right now is at a resistance and an important level. If Palladium gets above this level, we'll say 1,100, 1,120, that would be a very bullish move for Palladium. So Palladium is starting to look really interesting. And that's the first time I've said that since I've started looking at Palladium, which was not that long ago. Okay, so now let's move our attention to other commodities that don't look quite as good as gold, silver, and palladium. We'll start off with iron ore. And iron ore looks pretty weak. For some reason, I thought it was below $90, but $92.70. It has got very close to dropping below 90, but no. But still in a downtrend iron ore. So not that keen in iron ore companies right now. In fact, haven't even looked at iron ore charts. So some of the charts I probably look at include Phoenix. I do like Phoenix, but if I see the share price dropping, or a nice little rebound, got to 24 cents. If I definitely see it drop below 24 cents, I would consider taking a position in Phoenix. Of course, Fortescue, BHP, these sort of companies, they've all had nice little bounces, it seems like, the last day. And I would assume the same is true for BHP, yeah. Although they all look pretty negative if you just look at the daily chart. Okay, so let's move on to the Sprott, uranium Sprott physical uranium, in a down trend. So uranium is looking a little bit weak. This is just a Sprott physical uranium. And I did have a look at some of uranium charts, and nothing really stood out to me among that group of companies. Oil, oh, this is the one that is below 70. Yeah, this one fell below 70. Got as low as about $65 at the start of the week. $65 is an important level for oil. So we have seen a little bit of bounce, but this one is weak as well. So a bit of weakness in oil at this point in time. And we have seen that at the price you're paying at the pump. The price up the road for me is $1.50 right now. Probably the bottom of the cycle, and I expect the price to rise to like $2.90 at the top of the cycle. But don't get me started on that. But right now, yeah, I think we are seeing weakness in oil prices at the pump, the oil pump, the petrol pump, whatever you want to call it. Natural gas, yeah, nothing here of note. Lithium still dropping. Copper, something I always pay attention to. Copper. I wouldn't say it's in downtrend. I would like to see it get back up to above 425 to get above the highs we saw back at towards the end of August. But no significant trend right now for copper. Coal, bit of weakness in coal, I've just noted. Yeah, coal has fallen in the last few weeks, which is represented in some of the coal players on the ASX. We have seen Whitehaven Coal fall, New Hope fall as well, I think, if I remember correctly. Yeah, New Hope fall, and Yancoal's fallen just because, or one of the reasons Yancoal's fallen because they suspended their dividend or something like that. Tin, what's happening with tin? Nothing much. Nothing much exciting there. And nickel has, well, that's, you need to put a line chart for that. But no, well, it's more of a downtrend than an uptrend for nickel. And should I have a look at cocoa? Nah. Okay, so let's move on attention to Bitcoin, and we'll also have a look at some bonds. And also Ethereum. Notice Bitcoin is above $60,000. I would actually say right now, if anything, Bitcoin is in a really slowly maybe not developing, but a slowly playing out down trend. The reason I say that is when you look at the major highs, they're all a little bit lower than the previous high. Now, the lows have been lower than the previous low as well, although this low, not quite. It's getting very close. So if anything, a little bit of a downtrend, but it's a fairly weak downtrend. And the main thing I'd like to see with Bitcoin is for it to get above 64,000, which is the highs we saw back in late August, and then above 68, 70,000. If that does happen, this slowly growing or slowly evolving downtrend has come to an end. I would be a little bit more bearish when it comes to Ethereum. That looks a little bit more like downtrend is definitely in play. So more bullish for Bitcoin, more bearish for Ethereum. And I do have a little bit of Bitcoin, but no Ethereum. And I have no intention to buying Ethereum. And let's have a look at bonds. So bonds keep dropping. It's now below 4. The 30-year US bonds are now below 4, and this is the definition of a downtrend. This is the definition of a downtrend. 30-year government bonds is in a downtrend. And if you have a look at the Australian 10-year bonds, you're going to see the same thing. That's why I only look at one bonds, and that's the US 30 years. Slight subtle changes or differences between the two, but if you see one in a downtrend, the other one's going to be a downtrend as well, and which means bond prices are rising. In fact, the TLT ETF should be in a beautiful uptrend. Yep, this is actually has broken out. So, and you can see just a bit of volume coming in just before the breakout. There's a nice little pullback when it broke out. This is a beautiful looking chart for the TLT, the 20+ year Treasury Bond ETF. And of course, hopefully you know this, bond prices and bond yields are inversely related. So when bond yields going down, bond prices go up. I've explained it a few times before in past videos why that is the case. And currency, so something I am paying a little bit more closer attention to. I love to see the Australian dollar rally. Love to see that. I was looking at accommodation. So this is a hiking holiday, but I will want to stay in motels sometimes. And motel prices are just extraordinary, extravagant. It's just like, what? These are like 1-star or 2-star motels charging $100. Like, what the heck? Anyway, so let's have a look. And I actually did do research on it and why that is happening. It's just over demand. People just have been traveling the last few years because past COVID-19, so a little bit of pumped up travel. And so all these motels, hotels have raised their prices. And I think eventually this travel theme is going to come or draw to an end. And that's why I've sort of delayed my holidays over the last few years, just too expensive. Anyway, let's have a look at some companies that did pop up on my radar when I did my screeners. So I do a few screeners. Some screeners I do every single day, like the unusual volume screener, which might be my famous, my favorite screener. You can spot out a lot of interesting things when you look at an unusual volume. Also look at 120-day moving average crosses. I also look at 3-month highs. Don't look at that every day, but towards the end of the week, I might look at that. So some of these companies have popped up on my radar or my screener when I looked at this on a Saturday, the 14th of September. Start off with AQZ. Now, this one didn't pop up on my screener, but it did pop up when I went through some other charts because it is at a support level. Aviation. Now, the interesting thing about this, if you look at Qantas share chart, Qantas does look interesting in terms of it's an uptrend. So Qantas is in an uptrend. Not sure why there's a lot of interest in Qantas, but when you look at some of the other airlines, Australian, New Zealand, or Air New Zealand, Australian, New Zealand, Air New Zealand, no excitement in that one. And Alliance, no much excitement in this one. I probably do favour Alliance Aviation Services over any other airline, even including Qantas. So I would be more interested in this particular company than any other. And it is at an important level. So if you do look at the weekly chart, share price has been in downtrend for a while, since early 2021. So that's an important level, or important downtrend line to break. And share price is right at a support level. Share price has been really struggling to fall below $2.70 ever since June 2023. So I'm talking about over 1 year ago. And every single time it gets to this level, at around about 270 to 280, we said share price bounce. But each bounce has been weaker than the previous one. So something has to give eventually for Alliance Aviation. Either this support level has to break, or this downtrend line has to break. So this could be called a descending triangle, something like that. I'm not sure if it's bullish or bearish. So it's getting very close. So these two lines are eventually going to merge or meet. And at that point, we know which way the share price is going to go for Alliance Aviation. So I don't think this one popped up on my radar or in my screeners, but for some reason it was in my list. Pointsbet, this one definitely popped up. You can see this is just a weekly chart. Massive volume coming in for Pointsbet in the past week. Now, my unusual volume is just a 1 day. I'm pretty sure we could look at 1 week unusual volume. Pretty sure I could do that. And the share price has just gone bananas in the last week. In fact, the last week. Share price has risen, and the really big volume came on the Monday session. Share price on that day rose 11.8%, and it's continued to rise. Now, the funny thing about this one, this is not adjusted for dividends. So this company has given back a lot of capital to the shareholders. This is one big one here. So this is not a negative announcement. This was just a capital return. So if you do adjust the chart for dividends, which is fairly easy to do, you just press this little button, ADJ, adjust data for dividends, you get a completely different chart. And the chart actually looks way more interesting. So share price in a slowly evolving uptrend, just like the FTSE. And then all of a sudden, share price has just taken off in the past week on higher volume. Something has got the market excited about Pointsbet. And yeah, I don't know what that is, but I just know something has happened. The chart looks really good. Now, I don't usually look adjusted for dividend charts, but for Pointsbet, I do prefer to look at that chart. Let's move on to a few other companies that have popped up. First one is, or the next one is Centuria Capital Group. And there are quite a few REITs that popped up in the 30 or the at a 3-month high screen. About 220 companies have popped up in that, and quite a few of those companies are gold companies and REITs. So this is one of those, Centuria Capital, and share price got to $1.87. This is one of those companies that popped up on my unusual volume. Not only that, share price got to a 3-month high. I think it's actually even more than that. If you draw a line, it's fairly important, this level right there. That's $1.84. Share price was struggling to get above that level for most of 2024. And the past week, share price has rallied. But look at the volume. Some really big volume have come through, particularly on the Friday session when the share price went above this resistance level. So the market is telling us something. And a lot of times when you see a breakout above a resistance level, you want to see that breakout on higher volume. That means there's some strength in this particular stock. So Centuria Capital Group, an interesting breakout on unusual volume, higher volume than usual. So it's CNI. Ridley Corporation, this is another one whose share price has popped up on higher volume. The share price looks like it wants to take off. So this high volume came on Friday's session, and it does look like there is potentially a shift in trend in the share price. Not sure what's happening with this company again. Pretty sure this is an ag company, agricultural company. A production and market of stock feed and animal feed and supplements. So something has caused a little bit of excitement in this company in the past week. I don't think the company released any news flow. In fact, let's have a look. I don't remember seeing RIC in any of my announcements. A buyback, they're doing a buyback. That could have caused a bit of excitement. Just a notification of buyback. Maybe that's all it is. So that's interesting. So that's Ridley Corporation. Chart is looking good. Nice volume coming in as well. Beacon Lighting. How's this one? This one popped up on Friday. Share price rose 7.7%. Not sure if there was high volume in this one. Oh, there was slightly higher volume. I wouldn't call that unusual volume. But overall, the chart does look interesting for Beacon Lighting. Might be a new developing uptrend for this company. AFG, Australian Financial Group, I think. Yes. This one is another potential uptrend developing as we speak. This one had a couple of things going for it. Share price at a 3-month high, bit of a crossover between the moving averages. And on the last trading day of the week, there was some unusual volume. Not massive volume, but it was higher than usual. I would like to see it like the highest volume the company has seen for a long time. But we can see as soon as the share price started going up, we saw unusual volume, higher volume. So look back when the share price was dropping from April through to July. As the share price was dropping, there's no big volume spikes. But as soon as the share price started going up, volume spikes. So that would be telling me that there is possibility that maybe some fund managers are taking position in this company. And share price, or the chart looks pretty good. Looks like it's trying to move into an uptrend. Australian Finance Group, AFG. I just see AFG and just think Afghanistan. Black Cat Syndicate. This is a nice developing chart. A little bit of volatility in there, nice little dips. Now, the thing I noticed, whenever the share price dips, not a lot of volume, apart from June, but I'm pretty sure the company did a capital raising. On the last dip, the volume actually decreased during the dip. But the main thing, and I think the reason this company popped up on my screen is the volume. The last trading day of the week, massive volume came in, and the share price went to 40 cents, which is a long-term high for this company. Not only that, just like, what was it, AFG? So before the share price moved into uptrend, look at the volume. Nothing much volume happening. And as soon as the share price moved into an uptrend, we have seen increasing volume. So the market is getting more and more excited about Black Cat Syndicate. I don't know much about this company. I'm assuming they are a gold exploring company. I could be completely mistaken, and there's no reason I'm saying that. Business and Cow East Gold Project, Coyote Gold Operation, and Paulseen's Gold Operation. So that's another reason why the share price might be in a nice developing uptrend, is because what's happening at the gold sector. But a lot of other gold exploring companies, the charts are doing nothing. So this is a nice looking chart. And the other thing, the main thing, the volume. So share price moving up, volume moving up as well. Good sign. Okay, onto a company I do own, SciDev, and this did pop up on my screen. Chart looks absolutely brilliant. Share price not only got to a 3-month high, it got to a 6-month high, 1-year high, maybe a 2-year high. In fact, the last time the share price was at 54 cents was way back in March 2022. So a 2-year high for SciDev. This is a beautiful looking chart for SciDev. Maybe the only thing not going for it was the volume, although there was a little bit of a very small spike in volume, but nothing gratuitous or anything like this. But this is a beautiful looking chart for SciDev. And finally, I have LRL. What's this one? Labyrinth Resources. Okay, so it's pretty obvious why this one popped up on my list. And I don't know anything about this company apart from Labyrinth. David Bowie and Jennifer Connelly were in a movie called Labyrinth. Was that a child's movie? Mid-80s? I just remember Jennifer Connelly and David Bowie singing Labyrinth. 1986. David Bowie, Jennifer Connelly. Was it Labyrinth? How old was David Bowie in Labyrinth? 39. Jennifer Connelly was 15. It was 39. Jeez. Okay. Anyway, so Labyrinth, they released something on what day was that? The 17th of July, 2024. Share price rose 200% on that day. And a really high volume came in. I don't think I put this on my watch list. Yeah, I did. This is in my high volume spec, which makes sense because I would have put this company into that particular watch list on this particular day. And look what's happened to the share price since then. Beautiful developing chart. And on Friday, the share price rallied another 36.84% on high volume. Did the company release anything? Let's have a look. Is this just continued excitement about the company and the possibilities of them? So they did release something on the 13th, yeah. Review of historical Vivian and Comet Veil databases. No idea what that means, but they also had a general meeting presentation. I might have a closer look at this company because the chart is interesting. Markup cap is only 34.4 million. Okay, so that's it of the companies I want to show you. Let's turn our attention to companies at a 3-month high. And I noticed a theme when I went through this not that long ago. In fact, I don't have to look. I can actually increase. If I can, I want to increase the... Anyhow, so we have Westpac, Macquarie Group, WiseTech, Transurban, Aristocrat, Coles. So this is by markup. Coles, Xero, Centre Group. So now we're going to see a bit of a theme here. Centre Group, Northern Star, Pro Medicus, Seven Group Holdings, Stockland, Qantas, Vicinity Centres, Mirvac Group, Dexus, Charter Hall Group. See the sign? I'll see the theme there. Sort of REITs and property, real estate, that sort of thing. Breville, Hub24, Reliance, ARB, AMP, yes, AMP. Charter Hall, Long Whale REIT, Region, and we also have gold companies, Ramelius, Capricorn, Sigma Healthcare, Centuria Industrial REIT, Growth Point Properties Australia, Judo Capital, which is a bank, Waypoint REIT, Regis Healthcare, not surprising, Arena REIT, Resolute Mining, Centuria Capital Group, Musk Group, Elders, Objective Corporation, Abacus Group, which is property, Alpha, HPA, Orabanda Gold, Vulcan Steel, MA Financial, Generation Development Group, Ridley Corporation, Botanics. So we're getting to market caps of 660 million. I was listening to this, this is really interesting. I was listening to this podcast, and there was 3 guys talking about companies they like, and there was like a large cap, small cap, and a micro cap. Someone on the micro cap section said, oh, in the micro cap space, we like Botanics. Botanics has a market cap of 762. Botanics is not a micro cap. Ah, jeez. Anyway, Opthia, McMahon, Healthcare, Healthco, Healthcare and Wellness REIT. So there are 276 matches, but definitely a theme among these companies are REITs, property companies, also gold. And I do have a REIT watch list, and maybe now is the time to think about buying into some REITs and property companies. Anyway, so that's it for this particular video. It's a little bit shorter than usual, but that's okay. If you have any questions, any thoughts, leave them in the comment section of this video. Otherwise, I'm not a financial advisor. If you do need financial advice, make sure you seek out someone who is qualified and can speak to your own financial needs. That's it for this video. Have a good day. Bye.